Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. I want to call the meeting for our Police Advisory Panel to order for August 25th, 2021 at 5:30. At this time, I'd like to take an opportunity to request a motion to approve our minutes from our April 14th and our June 14th meetings.
Ralph Basham, I move to approve the minutes.
Second, Rinkovich.
It's been properly motioned and seconded. Are there any questions, any comments? Seeing none, hearing none, are by a vote, let's all in favor of approving the minutes. Aye, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any nays? All right, ayes have it. Our meeting minutes have been approved from our April 14th and our June 14th meetings. At this time, we would ask for an update from the chief or someone on his staff, give us an update on the IACP recommendations and where we currently stand with those recommendations.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. This is my first official meeting, so I'm honored to be here and be able to participate. I'm going to start off by just being very candid and transparent with you. I'm only in my 6th week, almost 7th week, and I do not have all of the necessary recommendations before you this evening. I do have some of them, but if you will allow me, I will work to endeavor to have the remaining recommendations put together for the next scheduled meeting. I do have some of the items already answered here in front of me, along with the recruitment updates and other aspects. So if you will allow me, I'll go ahead. There were recommendations that were given with reference to ICP findings. The first 7, I am not able to offer you anything direct at this moment, but however, I am in the process of working with our personnel to get those necessary answers. The first one that I can answer is number 8, with the question referring to institute formal CompStat meetings. It is my understanding that we have the program for CompStat, and the training division will be implementing training for the supervisors so that we can begin a normal CompStat meeting either weekly or bi-weekly in order to discuss all the necessary criminal / logistical / county issues that are coming up that need to be addressed. Jumping over to number 12, there was a request that we establish a new policy manual. That also is in progress. We're not using the old Lexipol system, and we're currently shifting to the Power VMS system in order to provide a full new policy manual. That is currently also being reviewed, and once it's reviewed, we should have that ready for formal presentation, hopefully by the next meeting as well. Number 13, revise use of force policy and training. And folks, at any time, please interrupt me if you have questions. I'll be more than happy to try to answer those for you.
Yes, Chief. Ricky Walker here. Who's doing the review? Is it a team there at the police department, or?
Yes, including myself. I had already initially started reviewing from my administrative position currently, so I'm going through section by section. Once I'm done with it, I also have 3 other individuals that will be assisting me. I'm also going to ask an outside Glynn County-based police person to review it as well, just to give me their appreciation of it and offer recommendations where there may be shortfalls or may be actually good points that we have highlighted and pushed forward with.
Roger that. Thank you.
All right, sir. I believe we were speaking in reference to the revised use of force policy and training, number 13. That also is a policy that is currently being revised. And after officers have been certified as use of force instructors, we will need to make the necessary changes, and those will be noted in the policy as well. We're also revamping the new TASER policy to include in that overall policy plan as well, with the changes that are coming with the taser devices being utilized. We're just trying to remain very reticent to situations that are occurring in the law enforcement community, and we're trying to match those, especially moving into October. Number 15.
Sir, before you move on, Chief, let me, if I can, ask a quick question concerning the use of force. And obviously, that's an item that's a little bit further down on our agenda.
Yes.
I don't know if there will be any more detailed information at that time. If there is, then I'll save my question to then. If not, then I'll go ahead and ask it now, so you can let me know.
I would go ahead and recommend you ask it now, sir, because I'm not seeing any further documentation to that, but I'll do my best to try to answer those questions for you.
Fantastic. In the past, we've discussed these various use of force policies being revamped and completed, and you shared some information just now about working toward that. Do we have an anticipated date of completion of the policy and posting to the website? This is something that want to try to get out to the public as soon as possible as it relates to what the policies are, as it relates to use of force, and getting them updated and posted. Can you provide us any insight on that, sir?
What I can do, sir, is I'll go ahead and granulate down to that specific subject matter and try to see if I can get all the necessary revisions done and push to try to have something posted for you by no later than the second, possibly third week of September, which leaves them at least a week or two before going into October.
All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that update.
Chief, can I, Ralph Basham, I'm just curious, in terms of the recommendations, who do you have focusing on these recommendations, and do you have sufficient resources to, in your opinion, to address these recommendations?
As of this moment, I believe I have personnel who are trained to look at it. As I alluded to, I'm also going to outside references through my associations from the federal level as well as the state level, working with ICP and with Noble and with the PERF, Police Executive Research Forum, trying to make sure we have the right people with eyes on this to perfect this document. It is a living document, so we want to make sure we have all of the I's dotted and the T's crossed when it comes out, so that leaves no room for any readdress or any question in the reader's mind once they see it. So to answer your question, sir, at this time, I believe I have the sufficient personnel, but if I see him within the next couple of days where I'm running shy, I will reach out for recommendations of additional individuals who might be willing to help us with this project to fast forward.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. If you all will allow me, I'll go ahead and move forward. The next document that I am able to speak to is number 20, with examining attrition and develop formal recruiting, hiring, promotional, and transfer plans with clearly codified procedures. As of this time, the agency does not actually have a promotional process. It has been asked to develop an interagency promotional process, and it was stated that it would be thought about. Currently, we have 10 supervisors who are in an acting status and not in permanent positions that are allowed for the agency due to non-promotional process or assessments. Once I arrived here, I noticed that same deficiency or same shortfall. I am meeting with human resources through the director and assistant director to try to see if we can also fast forward that. I've also reached out to 2 other law enforcement agencies to get copies of what their promotional processes might be, that we may be able to, instead of reinventing the wheel, take a good operating wheel that's already in motion and see if we can adapt that to the Glynn County methodology. Just waiting if there are any questions. Not hearing any, I'll move on to the next stated number 22. Implement a new tracking system for complaints. As of today, we have software for the new tracking system, which is in the beta by Axon, they were contracted to work with us. The agency is still tracking complaints and accommodations through a manual in-house system. And until the program is available to the agency, they are collecting all of the information at this time, and we'll have a formalized software program to present to us with all of the information and captured. That's what I'm seeing here that's being reported. And those are
Chief David O'Quinn.
Yes,
Let me
sir.
ask you, are you saying the Axon program is not up and running at this time?
It was taken down for, I believe, for some issues, but they are working on revising it and being able to do a better job of tracking all of the use of force issues and complaints, so that we have a full working system instead of just tidbits of information, sir.
Is that just particularly to our agency, or is that across the board for all their beta tracking systems?
I can't speak to that second question, Commissioner. I can just tell you that's in reference to Glynn County at this time. However, if you will allow me, I'll try to have an answer for you by tomorrow morning.
I think, are you familiar? I mean, since you've come in, I mean, we had a Axon rep, is that correct? That was helping us institute the cameras and the tasers, and I believe was supposed to help make sure that we had all the software up and running. Have you had the opportunity to meet that gentleman?
I've only had the opportunity to meet him virtually, sir. I've not had the opportunity to meet him in person. And the understanding was before the end of August, we would try to have a structured meeting together.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Chief, was there a time period given on when that may be back up and running or in place? And are the tasers and body cams, are those functioning and operating the way that they should be? And what the issue is software being able to record or capture the data? Is that what I'm hearing?
What you're hearing is partially correct, sir. Let me make adjustments to your statement to let you know that we have had several problems with tasers that have malfunctioned or are not functional at all. We've reached back out to Axon, and they have agreed to change out those allotments of tasers where we were having continuous problems with triggering, with firing, which could be problematic in an actual situation when they're needed. They are in the process of changing those out. It wasn't until, I believe, 2 or 3 weeks ago, they noticed that there was a glitch in the software, and they had actually started meeting with them to try to get that all worked out as well. I can't offer you any excuses, sir. All I can tell you is, with everything I have going on, I'm trying to stay on top of everything, but I can make sure that this is another matter that has my undivided attention to get you the answers necessary. Hopefully I am.
Could you, Chief, could you, Ralph Basham, could you maybe just for a second tell us operationally, how is this impacting your ability to do your job? I mean,
It's my understanding that it's not a huge allotment of issues that they've had. As officers have problems with tasers, they bring them to our quartermaster, who is able to change them out to another taser for them to utilize. Thus, it leaves us with 15, 20, 25 non-operational tasers. Rather than try to figure out how to get them repaired, we've requested that they just replace the full allotment. And then,
so you've taken them out of operational use at this point?
The ones that were giving us problems, yes, sir, but that officers have been replaced with operational tasers that are functional.
And those does that out get recorded at all? I mean, is it just tell us a little bit about that? I don't quite understand what's going on here.
It's my understanding when this was discovered to be a problem, prior to my start here, that they had started collecting all of the non-working tasers. I met with the quartermaster, and it's my understanding that they contacted Axon, who then understood, because I requested they write a letter to them and speak to them in person about it. They reached out to our representative, who immediately offered an apology for the non-functional tasers. They said, if you go ahead and collect the allotment that you're given a problem with, which they did, they found out that it was a particular allotment of 24 that were non-functional either due to product defect or design. So what they did is they took the entire allotment back, and they're going to replace those with the 24 new ones that are the same exact model, style, and design that are fully functional. If we come across any others that have the same problem, they will then go ahead and test those allotments. But what I have done is requested that they look at all allotments we've received.
Exactly.
Make sure that this is not just problematic with one allotment. I've asked that they look at all allotments.
I agree. Yes.
What's
absolutely.
the timeline for the replacements?
They were not able to offer me an immediate timeline, but as of right now, we do not have an issue with each officer having a taser. We're pushing them to get it to us, obviously, before October.
Okay, under the contract, I believe they promised to get that done in an expedient manner, and that doesn't seem to be happening. If it's been more than a week or 72 hours and they don't have anything in the mail.
I'll follow up on that, sir, Mr. Walker, and I'll make sure that I get an answer for you as well on that tomorrow.
Yeah,
Thank
I agree with Ricky on that. I mean, the confidence of the officers on the street, I mean, in this equipment is, paramount.
Yes, sir. And I agree with you, sir. And I will make sure that I get an answer to this tomorrow that is suitable for an explanation when we can see these allotments not only replaced, but also tested and give us the final answers.
Chief, this is David O'Quinn. Have you made county staff, Mr. Mumford, aware of this situation? Is he aware of it?
Commissioner, I don't have an answer for you on that, but I will make sure he's aware of it tonight.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be tonight, it'd be in the morning or whatever, but I think the county attorney should be brought up to speed on this since it was we have a contract with them, and if it's not being followed, we need to make sure they clearly understand it needs to be followed. So, I mean, he's someone that can help you hopefully put some pressure on those folks. But I'm somewhat surprised. They were very attentive, I think, all during the process of implementation. So I'm a little bit surprised that I'm hearing that maybe they're not quite as reactive right now. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised. They got the sale and they're moved on or something to that effect. But please help. Mr. Mumford and others in the county government can help you also put pressure on them. So just wanted to give you that.
Yes, sir. I'll make sure that this is my first action in the morning, and I am going to go by my knowledge of Axon and tell you that what's probably happening is there is a shortage of materials for them to be able to replace these things. It's not an excuse. I'm just guessing that might be why there's a delay in the replacement times, but I will confirm everything tomorrow and send all of you a report tomorrow on those matters.
And my understanding is no officers without taser at this point. Is that correct? A working taser, is that correct?
At this time, sir, we had a surplus of tasers in our stockpile that would take care of any officer who either had one destroyed or one that malfunctioned. And as of right now, I believe we still have a couple of extras if anyone has any problems. So yes, every officer has a functional taser as part of his system or her system.
And Chief, just to clarify, there have been no operational issues at this point, right? And no one has had a taser not perform in an actual situation.
And to my knowledge, sir, that is correct. We have not had an actual taser collapse while being utilized in a real world situation. It's my understanding also before they started shift, they're to test fire the tasers just to make sure that they are functional. And I think that's when they started to notice that there was a problem with either the triggering or the discharge of the taser.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. If there are no other questions with regards to the ICP recommendations, again, I apologize. I do not have more for you than what I did. I am pressing to try to get the remainder of these items answered. And if we can get them done before the next meeting, I will make sure that I send you all a copy of that, and then maybe even call for a special session if you will allow. With that being said, I'd like to move on. I believe you're asking for a recruitment update. based upon sworn vacancies. This information was provided again by our quartermaster / recruiting person, Sergeant Colin Scoggin. Today, as of 8/25/2021, the department is supposed to have 133 sworn positions. We currently have filled 110 sworn positions. We have a total vacancy of 23 positions. We have 8 part-time, which were converted to 4 full-time that have never been filled. We have a COPS grant positions that have never been filled as -8. We have certified candidates currently in process with HR. We've got 3 actually working that are coming as certified officers from other departments. We have sworn position vacancies, minus part-time, full-time, in the COPS program or in process. We have a total of 8 there as well. We have 2 additional certified candidates which have applied as of today, and they have been interviewed and are awaiting background results. Currently, we have 22 additional applicants, 20 non-certified, not additional applicants. We have currently 22 applicants, 20 non-certified, and the 2 certified that I just referenced. And all will be interviewed between September 1st and September 3rd with the intention of hiring at least 10 non-certified to send to the police academy by January of 2022. To cover other vacancies, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Chief, this is Dominic. Is there anything that the panel or that can do to assist the process? I know you said there were a couple in the HR process. Is there anything, any assistance that we can provide to help with expediting the process to onboard those officers a little bit faster?
It's my understanding, sir, that has already been addressed with HR through Catherine Downs before she left. And it's also the understanding, I believe, of the police commissioners that they recognized that there was a deficiency process in processing applicants for the police department, that it was a delayed hiring process. And they're supposed to be working to expedite that now through the assistant human resource manager as well as the human resource manager. So, so to answer your question, sir, I'm sorry.
Chief, just as a follow-up to Dominic's question, Ralph Basham here.
Yes,
we went to the 10-hour shifts, and that was based upon having sufficient levels of staffing to do that. And we started this, I think we were 33 or 30 down whenever we started the panel. And it sounds like we're still about the same place we were. So could you just tell us, has this had an impact on this 10 hours versus the 12? And I know you haven't had a whole lot of time to look at all this, and it's probably overwhelming, but are you seeing any issues with the staff, the morale, the officers?
yes, sir.
Give me your sort of hard line on this. What?
The transparency aspect of all of this, sir, is that the 10 hours, even though it was working upon my arrival, we're going to have to go back to 12-hour shifts. We're right now barely making minimum staffing for or requisite staffing each day. We're having to canvass officers to come in on their days off or to put officers to work that want to make the additional overtime. That is not so much because they don't want to work. It's just because we have a shortfall of officers with those 23 vacancies. We're losing officers who are leaving because we had an issue with the compression. It's my understanding that the compression study has been completed and that it is something that will be looked at further between the county manager, the county attorney, and the board of commissioners to possibly have a remedy by September. As a result of there not being anything in place prior to, we're seeing, some of the officers leaving for other departments. But to go back to your original question, we will have to go back to 12 hours anyway with us moving towards October. we're looking at possibly starting 12 hours again in September. That way we can ensure not only having enough manpower for each shift, but having additional manpower to cover any other exercises or any other outside venues that need coverage as well as we move closer to the October trials. So to answer your question, sir, we will be going back to 12 hours, which we find, even though it may cause some consternation with the officers, it is the most effective way to make sure we have enough coverage for all of the shifts as well as all of the venues that are going to need.
Have you had a chance to have this conversation with your leadership team in terms of conveying that message to the officers? And I this is a whiplash thing, for the officers. So I think there needs to be an opportunity to explain. I mean, this is where you are, right? I mean,
yes, sir. I just learned of this situation today from two of the captains that came in to see me, and they made me aware of just how critical it had gotten. I'd seen the necessary emails go out requesting additional bodies for minimum staffing of shifts. I made the inquiry, and that's when they came back and told me exactly what was going on. So we are going to have to make the hard line push to notify the entire collective of going back to 12 hours. I am prepared to have a general staff meeting after meeting with the executive staff to make sure they understand not only why we're doing it, but the necessity for it to happen. It will cause some problems with the officers, but like I said before, we already prepared them to understand we will probably be going back to 12 hours in preparation for October anyway. So it won't be as big of a sting to them as you may think it is. They're in the back of their minds knowing that this is coming, sir.
Yeah.
Chief, this is Teresa Hoyt. When we interviewed the officers some time ago, one of the first things that the panel did was have sessions where in groups of, I think no more than 3 of us, we would meet with the officers. And I was fortunate enough to be able to attend those meetings. And in terms of morale, my memory is that the transition to the 10-hour shift was really very close to the top of the list of the officers in terms of how much that would boost their morale and in their mind, reduce attrition. Do you have any kind of, I understand you have to do what the necessities require, and I understand the pressure under, but do you have any sort of realistic timeline that you could give them for when they might hope to return to the 10-hour, to the 10-hour shifts?
With the bodies that we're recruiting, trying to bring in, and to answer your question, ma'am, it's a very good answer, very good question, thank you. With the hopeful guidelines of pulling more people in, which I'll speak to that in the recruitment efforts, but we are hoping that the 12 hours will only last during the trial period, October to November, October to December, because it's going to be a full staffing need anyway between the necessary officers on the street to deal with the necessary issues with protesters, et cetera, as well as the staffing of the necessary Baker zones having officers on regular patrol. In order to supplement this, I put out letters to neighboring police departments and have gone even outside of the state to make the necessary request that if they were to send personnel, it would be simply to double up officers in cars that are working patrol staffing. And that way we can ensure the officers' safety, as well as making sure that we have competent officers backing each other up, handling calls, whether they're out on the island or whether they're in the downtown area of the county and neighboring Brunswick. Because once October starts, we're going to have an overlapping need of officers to work in various areas because of the shortfalls City of Brunswick has as well.
Chief, Ralph Basham again, it's one thing to ask the officers to step up when there is an issue or a situational things happen.
Yes, sir.
But if this is truly an issue of staffing and a lack of staffing just to meet your everyday responsibilities, aside from the trial.
Yes, sir.
If that's the case, then being just straightforward, we don't have enough people to get the job done. Well, whether it's a normal day or an extraordinary day, is that an accurate assessment of your situation?
Not an accurate assessment, sir. We do have the bodies to do minimum staffing. What has happened is we're having to pull officers in who are either looking for additional overtime. The ones that we also have, you have to remember, we also have 7 officers out on COVID as well. So that's where we also have a deficiency of having to cover shifts. And we're anticipating probably a few more that are going to have COVID issues as well, because it may not necessarily be the officer himself or herself that has COVID, but family members are coming up with COVID as well. So that's where we're also having to get additional bodies in to cover certain staffing issues.
Yeah. So I guess with Teresa's question, after the October trial,
Yes.
the expectation, if I'm understanding how you're explaining this,
Yes, sir.
the expectation is after the October trial, the officers can expect to go back to the 10-hour staffing.
It is my anticipation, sir, to be able to return them to 10-hour staffing once the issues dealing with the trial and any exigent circumstances surrounding the trial have come and passed.
Yeah, and you know, these officers, these men and women, they understand that. So, and
Yes,
if they can expect that that's going to happen, they'll suck it up and they'll do their job and then hopefully go back, you know, to the 10-hour after the trial.
That is correct, sir. I'm intending to start meeting with the full body of officers at least once every 2 weeks to keep them apprised as we move forward to October, because there's going to be a huge demand on them to cover all of the necessary areas and then still be available as backup to additional mic forces that might be needed out in the coverage areas where the protesters may be. But we're working on a silent ops plan to ensure that the county as a whole, it has the necessary coverage to maintain its integrity.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. This is Teresa Hoyt again. As I said, I certainly do appreciate the issues created by the trial. And that was my only point, is that I think if the officers, you certainly don't want to make any false promises or potentially false promises, but I think if they understand that it's a temporary situation, they'll absolutely step up to the plate. So that was really the assurance I was looking for. Thank you.
I can promise you, to answer your question, I can promise you, if you canvass any of the officers in this department as of today, they will share with you that I have been nothing but transparent with them about real world scenarios, situations, and the problems that we're facing in the next couple of weeks moving forward. And I think they have a greater appreciation because someone has been transparent with them, as opposed to just saying, we'll see, or we'll deal with that when we get to it.
Chief, this is David O'Quinn. One thought or one suggestion that has sort of been kicked around some is, are there is there a way to help you have more sworn officers available to you by facilitating more of the tasks that maybe sworn officers are done that could be done by regular, not by civilians? Civilian staff.
Commissioner, if I'm understanding your question, you're asking, could we develop almost a public safety group that could take some of the pressure off of sworn officers, say for instance, with school zones or traffic crossing?
No, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, within your department, you have sworn officers who are in the administrative, many administrative roles. Is there any way to relieve them or hire civilians to do a lot of those those administrative roles, so the sworn officers could be more available for as detectives or investigators are on the road. I guess I'm asking, do you feel like there are some positions that can be filled not by sworn officers, but by civilians who are working there in the department?
Commissioner, I understand your question, and I'm sure there are maybe a few positions, but I'm also happy to tell you that CID, Special Investigations, and a majority of our administrative personnel are stepping up and doing more outside work as patrol officers. Just today, I did a ride along with 2 of our CID officers at separate times, and they were backing up the regular patrol units on calls and actually answering calls themselves. We have administrative personnel that are coming forward to serve on the future mobile forces that will be out there dealing with the protesters directly. So it's an all hands on deck call that's going on now. As far as hiring additional civilian personnel, we have not seen a need yet for that backfill because a lot of the officers who are in an administrative role are having to dual hat to meet the needs of the incident command system, as well as to be able to be readily available on the street as needed.
Well, I guess that's the point I'm getting at. I mean, is there, as you look into your organization,
Yes.
and you have the opportunity to fill some of those with civilians and allow some of those sworn officers to get out of the administrative more into some of the more everyday policing, my encouragement would be on the lookout for those opportunities, and let's bring them to the county manager and to the commission. Let's see if we can get them funded that way.
Yes, sir. I'll make sure that we start working on that also as a backup in case we do need every person that's in an administrative role to take the street. Yes, sir. If there are no other questions, let me move on to other areas that we're seeing vacancies. We have 3 vacancies within our captain's positions. We have actively in-house officers who have applied for interviews for the captain's positions. We had 1 outside applicant who applied today, had a very impressive interview, and if everything goes according to plan, based upon the pedigree and the resume that was presented, they may serve to be an excellent conduit to us having a better internal affairs, policy design, community outreach, and if I'm not mistaken, specialized services unit that will be able to work more aggressively to get us ready, especially for October. The individual who interviewed today has a specialty in all of those areas and is from the area here in Brunswick. So he's quite familiar with the dynamics of Brunswick and has grown up a Georgia citizen and has served at the federal level and probably would be a very suitable candidate for a future captain's role over administrative services. Just making you aware. The other 2 positions are currently filled by acting captains over special services and intelligence. The only full-time captain we have currently on staff is over our patrol division. So we are aggressively working to fill all 3 of those captain slots permanently. We're seeing program analysts over open records. We currently are advertising for individuals for that. Interviews are expected to begin within the next 2 weeks in order to fill those positions. Within the crime scene tech system, or CSI, crime scene investigation, we have a complete selection. Applicant is moving and is expected to be on board in early September, which will fill all of the vacancies we had in crime scene, which will enable us to be effective at actual crime scenes going on in the county. Administrative tech, we have the selection already complete. Applicant is being processed by Human Resources as of today and is expected to be on board in early September as well. Questions concerning vacancies at this time, folks?
Yeah, Chief, can I just, Ralph Basham, the attrition, what are you seeing in terms of it? Who's leaving?
to make you more familiar with the situation and with the permission of Commissioner O'Quinn, who's aware of it, when you have an officer who's been here with the department and is, say for instance, a field training officer, and they've got 7+ years or 8+ years or 10+ years, and they're told to train a new officer coming into the department with maybe a year or two of experience, but that officer they're training is making $10,000 or $11,000 more than them, that has a tendency to cause problems within the ranks, which forces some officers to leave in search of a better funded position with another department. You also have senior staff in the ranks of either a captain or a lieutenant that are making, that have sergeants making more money than they are based upon how the pay scales have been established over the last years. There is no set standard for pay grades within the different ranks of the department, and that has caused some problems. With the compression study that I spoke to earlier, working through Ms. Catherine Downs, the former county manager, acting county manager, and through the Board of Commissioners, HR has come up with what they feel is a plan that will not only work effectively for the department, but for Glynn County as a whole, because it's more than just the police department that's suffering under the same compression issue. Once we're able to provide the officers with a plan forward, and they see that we're actively moving to aggressively address it, I think you'll see a shortfall of hemorrhaging of officers leaving come to a stop, especially when they see hope in place of what they're thinking now that no one cares about their situations.
Are they moving to the sheriff's department, or where are they going?
It's my understanding that we've had an exodus of maybe 6 or 8 individuals to go over to the sheriff's department because of the additional $9,000 incentive he's offering for new traffic interdiction units he's setting up. I've encouraged the officers to please not leave, just to give us some time to deal with the situation. We've also had a few officers who left the profession altogether because of the level of violence and the level of social media attacks that they're seeing coming at the profession itself. So it's not just about money, it's about job security in the sense of feeling appreciated for the job that you do. And we're working to collectively build a better department to get the officers not only better trained, but to feel like they are appreciated, not just within the department, but by the community as a whole.
Commissioner O'Quinn, are there other commissioners on this call?
No, sir, just myself. Tamara Munson, who's one of the acting county managers, is on the call.
Well, they need to hear this conversation, in my opinion. So,
absolutely, this definitely needs to be shared. If it hasn't already been shared, it definitely needs to be shared with them so that we asking the chief and his staff to work hard to hire qualified men and women for the department, but yet it seems like everyone that we've hired since this panel has been put in place, we've lost that number, if not more.
Yes, sir. I mean,
good afternoon.
Go ahead, Tamara.
Hey, this is Tamara Munson, CFO and interim county manager. I just wanted to let you know that most, if not all, of the commissioners are well aware and well versed of this issue. We've been working on trying to find a solution to fund this problem for the last several months. We believe we have identified some funding and gotten everything in place. So that will be going to the board in mid-September to see if we can move this forward. But they are very well aware of it and that it's an active issue.
All right, fantastic.
I concur with Ms. Tamara's assessment, sir.
Are there any more questions with this particular topic? I don't want to minimize it, but at the same time, I want to be respectful of everyone's time so that we can continue talking about the other agenda items.
Not hearing any, I'll move forward to our recruitment efforts. We've done our normal recruiting through Indeed and Monster, but since my coming to the department, we've actually branched out and started a whole new recruiting route through utilization of the historically Black colleges and universities, law enforcement executives and administrators association, which I'm an active board member with. What we have done is we've put together a package to get criminal justice majors and anyone interested in law enforcement at all 107 historically Black colleges and universities in the United States interested. We're pushing for them to think of coming to the Golden Isles for an excellent opportunity in working as a law enforcement officer to help effective change for positive. So far, we're starting to see a rise in applications coming from the college level. We're also pushing the same aggressive tones towards major city chiefs to have them advertise in their departments, as well as ICP. The idea there is for officers who have worked in a major case city, such as a New York, Chicago, Atlanta, etc. If you need to get out of the Autobahn race that you're in at 200 miles an hour, you can come down to the Golden Isles and have an excellent experience in a school zone, basically at 35 miles an hour, working all of the things that make this place actively positive and keeping it safe for the community. We're starting to see some officers coming as certified officers from large departments. I've actually worked to recruit 3 or 4 from New Orleans who may be actively coming over before October to join that are full certified as well. Again, I stated we're using Indeed and Monster and continuing to use those to dramatically increase our non-certified applicants. The idea is to target certified officers to come. We're also beginning recruiting events at different events that were supposed to happen in the community, but due to COVID, we had to cancel National Night Out, for example, and some other major events where we would have had an actual recruiting booth set up and would have had opportunities to try to draw in individuals who would be interested in joining the department. We will resume this when the COVID numbers change in the hopes of trying to reinstitute getting individuals interested in coming to join the department. And that's pretty much where we are with the recruitment efforts. We are also working to maybe get some other Fortune 500 companies to work with us to push the whole recruiting process out to law enforcement agencies through their direct connections, either at the federal level or at the state and local level, in hopes of getting individuals in far-reaching places, Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, areas like that, that might be interested in coming to the main 48 contiguous states and possibly coming down to Glynn County or the Golden Isles.
Chief David O'Quinn, I applaud your expanding the net to try to reach and recruit as much as possible. One thing I think we're doing, just want to confirm, and we have fortunate to have a lot of military within short driving distance of this location, military bases, Fort Stewart, Kings Bay, Moody Air Force over in Valdosta, Mayport down in Jacksonville. Do we have an active recruitment into these military installations? I know, like up at Fort Stewart, they generally have 300 or so soldiers coming out of the service each month, is what I've been told. And I'm not sure we have in the past had the opportunity to go up there and make ourselves known to them. Do you know if we're doing that?
I cannot actively answer that, Commissioner. I can tell you, since I have been on board, sir, I have gone and established a whole new recruiting base with the United States Coast Guard. When I was in New Orleans, we had an active recruiting base with the Coast Guard where we were pulling directly from their ranks. We also approached the Marine Corps from that aspect. I've reached out to my contacts in Washington, D.C. and through the Pentagon to see if they can actively look at putting our recruiting posters up at the various military bases for individuals who may be in the law enforcement arenas as MPs, special police, or even shore patrol through the various ranks, in hopes of getting them to understand life is better where we are down here in the county.
Well, and also, I mean, you know, just the recruitment of soldiers coming out of the military, and if we're going to, if they're non-certified, the fact that we'd be willing to invest in them to become certified, I think that's a great selling point. So I'll stop on that. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner, if you will allow me, I'd like to add one other thing. We are actively also working with the colleges. We're getting ready to have an actual training academy working directly here through Coastal, where like Kingsland, Savannah, Gypstick, we will have an active police academy with hopes of working directly here in the area of Glynn County, which should also serve as a great endorsement for individuals who either live here already or want to come here and work. They don't have to travel 2-3 hours up the road in order to go for training every day.
Thank you.
Any other questions with regards to recruitment efforts? If not, I'll move on to the COPS grant. Currently under the COPS grant, we have Monica Harden, who is our grant coordinator. She notified us last week that the COPS office is accepting non-cost grant extensions. Because of COVID and because of the fact that we did see a slight attrition in officers, you have to maintain X number of officers in order to have a COPS grant given to your department or you to be awarded a COPS grant. Our fear was we weren't going to make that because we needed to have at least 8 to 10 additional sworn officers in the ranks in order to change the entire competency or the entire complement of officers within the department.
Chief, is that number still 130? I think it was 130.
That is affirmative, sir. It is still 130. So what has happened is we're getting close to the 130 with the applications that we're seeing coming in, even with the time sequential of having non-certified to go through the academy. What you have to remember is they don't have to be certified when they join the department. We just have to show that they have been actively signed by the department, gone through their preliminaries, and they're waiting to go to a police academy. If we can show that with also the grant extension they've given us, we should be able to work within the new timeline to make sure we continue to have that COPS grant awarded to us on a yearly basis.
When you say, Ralph Bash, when you say certification, what certification are you referring to?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean certification, sir. I meant extension. Forgive me.
Oh, okay.
Extension. Forgive me. I'm still thinking about something else. Forgive me, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, and thank you for correcting me on that. The final...
Chief, I would let me encourage you. I know that you made a statement that we're with those that are in the pipeline. You're getting close to the 130.
Yes, sir.
I wouldn't stop there. I would, if you get up to about 140, then with potential folks coming on board, just because of the attrition we've seen.
Yes,
your idea, I would think your target is not, oh, I've got enough to, if everybody gets through, we're at 130.
no,
I would say overshoot the mark and keep recruiting as hard as you can.
It's my intention to keep the bounty as full as possible and to keep it increasing, because I think as we, in my meager opinion, I think as we continue to grow as a department and we develop a better skill set for the officers, word is already starting to go out, and there are people starting to show great interest in wanting to transfer to this department. Just the other day, we had an officer who came over from Liberty County Police Department, and she's on board, and the reason she came is because she heard of all of the great things that have been going on in the last 5 or 6 weeks with this department. And the word is spreading because she's gone back and told 2 or 3 of the other officers there, and if things continue to work as well for her, they are actually actively probably going to start migrating this way as well. We offer a great incentive plan for officers who come here. The only major issue we have is that pay compression issue, but it's not really affecting the new officers coming on board as much as it is the senior officers of the veteran officers. So I believe that with given time, we will get people very interested to come here without having to necessarily rely on recruiting. Word of mouth is going to be a great extender and getting a lot of officers to come this way. All right. So the last topic we will discuss as far as I can see on my documents here, is officer training. Because again, I referenced COVID, it has affected a great amount of training that we had originally scheduled through GIPSTIC. We had a series of classes extending now between July and September that they were supposed to be attending, but because GIPSTIC has waived off on a lot of the classes due to the COVID issues, a lot of the officers have had to put on stalemate their hopes of pursuing a lot of these courses that are offered. We're working to hold as much training as possible at our facility. Our federal partners at FLETC and through Homeland Security have been above and beyond in helping us to meet those goals by coming here and actually conducting full-scale courses for us to attend. Our partners with FBI LEADA, who I actually am also a certified instructor with, have offered us the opportunity to continue sending leadership officers to their trilogy course. They're going to come here and actually host some of this in-house. And as a result, we've quadrupled the number of officers who have been able to attend this valuable training within the area. Other courses that have been offered here at Glynn County have been the TAC Med program, which is vital to the officers, especially heading into October. We're teaching officers now not just to assess where the wounds are, if it's a gun, if it's a stab wound, if it's a broken leg, fracture, whatever, but how to aggressively attack that area and maintain the officer's life until actual paramedics or sworn EMTs are on scene. Every officer in our department is going through that training, from myself on down to the lowest rank officer, and we're even offering to certain administrative personnel within the department as well. We're also having a critical communications course that's offered, whereby officers are learning how to give better communications answers, better information, not just within the department, but to other cooperating divisions, agencies that are working on the mutual aid channels. We're making sure that when officers are in the field, they're able to communicate not just verbally, not just orally, but to be able to use other means of technology in order to maintain the integrity of a crime scene or to even respond to a critical incident. Where I'm working to make sure every officer in this department is trained up to be an incident commander all their own. They shouldn't have to wait for a sergeant or a lieutenant or someone of high rank to arrive on scene. Each one of these officers are going to be trained on how to establish the scene and to maintain it until additional personnel arrive. We also have currently going a basic recovery of digital evidence course, and that is currently ongoing, where we're teaching officers not just here in Glynn County, but our neighboring sheriff's offices and other police departments, that when they come upon a crime scene, what you actually do with technology of cell phones. If you have to seize a laptop, if you have to seize a hard drive of a computer, any type of technology that may have criminal inferences that is court admissible needs to properly be recognized, recorded, and stored. A lot of critical evidence has been lost because the officer or officers have failed to put the proper protocols in place for storage of these tools. So with this course that's being offered through Homeland Security FLETC, officers are now almost receiving a train the trainer on what to do when you deal with these different hard drives, what you do when you deal with these different cell phones, what the capabilities of the investigative outreachings are with the tools that are available in which they can exploit those cell phones to get critical information. And that's where we are at this time. I'm pushing for one additional course, hopefully within September, that's going to deal specifically with implicit bias. The course is designed where we've done it in New Orleans and given it to law enforcement officers, irregardless of their racial makeup, their political makeup, their social makeup, their religious makeup. This course is invaluable because it teaches every officer that whether they want to understand it or not, we all have some form of implicit bias that may or may not affect how we do our jobs on a regular basis. The course instructors that will come here to Glynn County will work with the officers to recognize those implicit biases and also teach them how to overcome that, to possibly change their their rhythm or their dynamics of how they're doing law enforcement on a daily basis in our society. They also plan to educate certain active groups that are active in the community, Better Glynn, for instance, or some of the other organizations, the NAACP, and teach them about implicit bias, because if we're going to change a culture, we can't just change law enforcement. We have to work to change society's views and values as well. And the only way we can do that is to offer them the same level of courses that the officers are taking. It's my intention also to go back to having a Citizens Academy. We're going to move to try to start getting citizens actively involved in what goes on in a police department, how their tax money is being spent to have officers out there representing not only their interests, but who are invested in their community. So these are things that we're looking forward to moving with. At the next PAP meeting, our new administrative services captain will be able to provide a thorough update of officer training. And with that information, that should answer a lot of the remaining questions that may be in what direction our training is going for Glynn County Police Department.
All right. Are there any questions about the last topic that the chief just discussed?
Just one point, Chief. One of the big issues we've discussed prior to your arrival here, and this is obviously maybe not an unfair question, maybe an unfair question, but the whole idea of community policing. How have you found the community open to you? I mean, the officers about this whole idea of community policing. Just give us a minute of what your thinking is on that and how it's progressing.
Yes, sir. To answer your question, I have endorsed not community policing, but I've pushed through and actually started training on the doctrine of community engagement. And what we're doing is trying to move beyond policing, trying to get the community to understand that these officers don't just represent law and order. They also represent investment diplomats within the community. Since I have assumed role as the chief here with Glynn County, even with the mask on in public, I've had several people walk up to me who have identified me through the number of media outlets, and they tell me either I'm doing a great job and they're happy with the progress that they're seeing and that they're pulling for me, or they basically tell me I need to pack my things and go. Now, with each passing day, I'm seeing less and less negativity that's coming my way, and more people that seem to be accepting of the idea that I'm not here to hurt, but here to enhance. It's my understanding also that the social media, as far as the radio stations, are starting to be kinder to me on different things that I engage in on a daily basis, and that they're actually starting to understand that I am here with a purpose and not just here to hear the sound of my own voice.
Chief, be careful when the media starts to think they're your friend. So you know that better than anybody, right?
Yes, sir. I've learned very quickly in my life not to put anything past the media when it comes to exploitation and dynamic selling. So they can say whatever they want to on the radio. What they're not going to do is allow me to be drawn into something that turns into a powder keg. I am much too savvy for that, sir.
All right, Chief, one last question on one item that you may have briefly touched on. Just, and if you have information, I'd like for you to provide it to us. Has there been any update on where we stand with accreditation? And I know the biggest piece of accreditation was us getting our use of force policies in place before we start positioning ourselves to reapply. Can you give a brief update on that? And if you don't have that information, that's fine. We'll talk about that at our next meeting.
Sir, I am going to defer and say I do not have any information at this moment to give you. I can tell you it was a discussion today with some of the command staff where we were with it. I can also tell you that the person who interviewed for the job, that was the other Doctrine that I could not remember. They specialize in working with accreditations and revitalization of reestablishment of accreditations. So once this person is on board and working with our current staff, we're hoping to move forward and get the answers for you that you're needed. We will have a more positive response for you at the next PAP meeting.
All right. Thank you very much, Chief. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the effort and the information that you've shared with us this afternoon into the evening.
Yes.
Panel members, do you have any additional questions, comments that you would like to ask the chief, or just for the good of the body before we move on to our next topic?
Chief, I would ask, are you comfortable with the upcoming trial, that you're getting the cooperation, the resources, the funding that you need to, and is there any, I mean, if there are things that the panel or the commission could do to make you feel more comfortable that you're ready for this, this is your opportunity maybe to address that.
It is a very delicate situation that you asked me, sir. We're dealing with some internal things that we have to work out amongst the triumvirate of departments. I feel reticent that we will be able to get everyone on the same page working towards a common goal. As of this time, we're starting to see a great amount of support coming from outside agencies who have pledged themselves to help us, not just from the federal and state level, but also from the local level and neighboring counties, neighboring venues. I'm not prepared to truly talk about all aspects of what we're seeing. I believe that there will be a report that's coming out very soon in preparation for October that you all will also receive a copy of, which will alleviate a lot of the tension and fears that people are having as to whether we're ready or not.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anything else from the panel members? All right, hearing no.
I'm sorry, sir, but I might add one more comment. I can promise you that when the situation of October arises, and it is here, we will have done everything that we can to make sure we are thoroughly prepared for every contingency. We are looking at it. We're getting federal assistance. We're getting state assistance in the form of GEMA, in the form of Homeland Security, in the form of Flexi, who are working to make sure not only that we have the additional bodies and personnel to help us, that we're driving forward with logistics, but we're also receiving the necessary equipment that will carry us through this carry us through this point in history. I'll say that. And that's all I have, folks.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your updates, for the information that you shared with us, and for your transparency and candidness. Panel members, is there anything else that we have that we want to talk about before we take a look at and select a date for our next meeting?
I would like to say, we've, in regards to the evidence room, I know this panel, most all of you went and toured it a while back. The year, everything starts running together. I think it was at the beginning of this year before COVID. We are moving forward as a commission to expand that. We were able to fund the additional storage shelving, and then we'll be expanding that also in order to add another about 1,200 feet to the evidence room to meet the requirements. We're having to bring in an architect, but I just want to let you know that as a panel, I appreciate you guys going out there and touring that facility and giving your perspective to the commission. And just to let you know that not only did we able to get the bookshelves, but we will be expanding that area also.
Thank you, sir, for the update. Greatly appreciated. Anyone else? All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind, let's take a look at your calendar and see what time period or what day in September that would potentially work for your schedule to have our next PAP meeting. And I know it's later in the month, but the 29th works for me there. And I know it's leading up to preparation and everything for the trial, just giving a little bit more time for more preparation to be done. And maybe we can potentially get an update.
Mr. Chairman, do we have a date on the trial, or Chief, do we have a date on the trial?
October 8th is the official kickoff in the sense of they start jury selections. They're projecting 2 to 3 weeks of jury selections, which will carry us into November. And the full trial will begin either the first week of November, second week of November. They're guesstimating anywhere from 30 to 60 to 90 days for the total trial. They're guesstimating they're going to probably work through Thanksgiving, but everything should be concluded before or by Christmas.
So I guess
that was October 18th. Is that correct? The date of the...
Correct. That is correct, sir. October 18th.
Make sure I heard it correctly.
So I guess, Chief, you're the sort of the focal point here. What makes you comfortable for the next meeting?
I will go with whatever date you all choose because I will be here no matter what.
I have a conflict on the 29th. If that date works for everyone else, I can try to rearrange that.
And I have conflicts on the 2 weeks prior. And that was why for me initially threw out that date. But I'm open to any date that works best for the panel, and I will see what I can do to rearrange things, or obviously
if the meeting
can go on without me.
Meeting doesn't have to be on Wednesday. Any other day that week works for me. It's just Wednesday that I have the conflict.
Okay, well then what about the 28th? September 28th, which is a Tuesday, 5:30, and I'm going to say we'll start out with the possibility of setting it up virtually, not knowing where we will be with COVID. Does that work?
That's fine with me.
All right, then we'll set our next date for Tuesday, September 28th, 5:30 virtually. And I will work with Christy and Matt and others to get our agenda together, as well as get those topics from our panel members and make sure that we're doing everything that we can to get it publicized in time and there are no additional conflicts. If there's a conflict from the county's perspective, then I'll reach out to the panel and see if we can't select another date. But as of now, we were tentatively selected for September 28th at 5:30.
Mr. Chairman, at the risk of upsetting everybody, just one last point. We have had discussions about adding an additional panel member. How do you propose we go about? Is that something that you're leaving to the commissioners, or is it something that we would discuss or make recommendations?
In my opinion, that's something that we need to leave to the commissioners, just as they made their recommendations and appointments associated with all of us. Obviously, the commissioners have our ears and are welcome to, and they have communicate with us in reference to our thoughts. But in my opinion, I think that's a decision for the Board of Commissioners to make. And who they are willing to appoint. I know that I've had some conversations with various commissioners, and they definitely want and intend to appoint another board member or panel member. I'm sorry, but I think at the end of the day, that appointment and that decision should come from them. And if you have your thoughts, by all means, feel free to share that with the commissioners.
Great, thank you.
If there are no other comments, questions, items to address, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved in second for adjournment. All in favor? Aye.
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 We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.